Welcome to Sherborne, a hidden gem nestled in the heart of Dorset, England. This picturesque market town with its winding streets and ancient gabled houses is a living testament to over 1,300 years of rich history. Imagine stepping back in time as you walk along the banks of the River Yeo, surrounded by the lush greenery of the Blackmoor Vale. Sherborne's story begins in the Saxon era, when it was known as Skyr Burn, meaning clear stream, a name that perfectly captures the town's pristine beauty. But don't let its tranquil appearance fool you. Sherborne has been at the centre of some of England's most pivotal moments. As you explore the town, you'll be walking in the footsteps of kings, bishops, and even the renowned explorer Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh was so enamoured with Sherborne that he built a beautiful manor house here, now known as Sherborne Castle or Sherborne Newcastle to locals. Legend has it that it was in these very grounds that Raleigh's servant, mistaking his tobacco smoke for fire, doused him with water, a tale that has become part of local lore. But Sherborne's history goes far beyond Raleigh. The town's crowning glory is undoubtedly Sherborne Abbey, a magnificent structure that has stood the test of time since 705 AD. Originally founded by St Aldhelm as a cathedral, the abbey has witnessed centuries of change, from Norman conquests to the tumultuous days of the English Civil War. Step inside the abbey, and you'll find yourself surrounded by breathtaking architecture spanning various periods. The Norman Tower and South Doorway stand in harmony with the later Gothic additions. But perhaps the most intriguing feature lies behind the high altar. The stone coffins of two of Alfred the Great's elder brothers, Ethelbald and Ethelbert, discovered in 1858 and 1925, respectively. Sherborne's educational legacy is equally impressive. The town is home to Sherborne School, one of England's oldest and most prestigious independent schools. The school's buildings are a fascinating blend of old and new, with some incorporating parts of the old monastic buildings, including the 15th century abbot's lodging. As you wander through the town, you'll be struck by the distinctive deep yellow hamstone used in many of Sherborne's buildings. This unique architectural feature gives the town a warm, golden glow that's particularly enchanting in the soft light of dawn or dusk. History buffs will be delighted to know that Sherborne boasts not one, but two castles. The ruins of the 12th century fortified palace, built by Roger de Caen, Bishop of Salisbury and Chancellor of England, stand as a silent witness to the town's medieval past. Nearby, the 16th century Sherborne Castle, built by Sir Walter Raleigh, offers a glimpse into Tudor England. But Sherborne isn't just about grand buildings and famous historical figures. The town is dotted with charming details that speak to its long and varied history. Take, for instance, the almshouses of John the Baptist and John the Evangelist, founded in 1437 and still serving as a residential institution today. Or the Abbey Gatehouse, once the entrance to a Benedictine monastery, now housing the Sherborne Museum. For those interested in religious history, Sherborne offers a diverse array of places of worship. Apart from the Abbey, you'll find St Paul's Church, the Catholic Church of the Sacred Heart, and St Aldhelm, and the Cheap Street Church. a unique joint Methodist and United Reformed congregation. As we continue our journey through Sherborne, it's clear that this town is more than just a collection of historic buildings. It's a living, breathing community that has grown and evolved over centuries, each generation adding its own chapter to Sherborne's fascinating story. From its Saxon origins to its Tudor heyday, from its role in the English Civil War to its place in modern-day Dorset, Sherborne continues to captivate and inspire. Whether you're a history enthusiast, an architecture lover, or simply someone who appreciates the charm of an English market town, Sherborne has something to offer. Now, let's delve into the mysterious side of Sherborne, where history and legend intertwine to create tales that still send shivers down spines today. As twilight falls over Sherborne, the town takes on a different character. The ancient stones seem to whisper secrets of the past, and nowhere is this more apparent than at the old castle. Perched on a hill above picturesque pleasure grounds, this medieval ruin harbours more than just historical significance. It's said to be home to several spectral residents. One of the most famous ghostly tales centres around a stone seat known locally as Sir Walter Raleigh's Seat. Legend has it that on each Michaelmas Eve, as the clock strikes midnight, the ghost of Sir Walter Raleigh himself returns to this very spot. Some say he simply sits, perhaps contemplating the twists of fate that led to his downfall. Others claim to have seen a mournful figure walking beneath the trees in the old grounds. It's a poignant image, considering Raleigh's connection to Sherborne. He arrived here in 1592 as Lord of the Manor, a gift from Queen Elizabeth I in recognition of his service. Raleigh fell in love with Sherborne, attempting to renovate the old castle before eventually building the core of what is now known as the new castle. But fate was not kind to Raleigh. Disgraced under James I, he lost his beloved Sherborne estates and ultimately his life, beheaded in Old Palace Yard, Westminster in 1618. Perhaps it's this tragic end that draws his spirit back to the place he once called home, though some whisper that he returns without his head. But Sir Walter isn't the only spectral resident of the old castle. Visitors have reported encounters with the ghost of a phantom child, its laughter echoing through the ruins, and then there are the mysterious phantom horses. Christopher Brown, in his review of Haunted Sherborne, shares a chilling account from a night watchman who worked at the castle between the two world wars. While this vigilant guard never saw a ghost, he often heard unsettling sounds. He would describe how, as midnight approached, the sound of galloping horses would grow louder and louder, seeming to draw ever nearer, only to cease abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The supernatural stories of Sherborne aren't confined to the old castle. Even the newer Sherborne Castle, built in the 16th century, has its share of ghostly tales. One particularly intriguing account comes from Lady Chatterton, an early member of the Ghost Club and daughter of a Winchester Cathedral prebendary. In her 1878 memoirs, she recounts a chilling experience within the castle walls.
I could scarcely have been 4 years old when we were staying at Sherborne Castle, an old place belonging to Lord Digley in Dorsetshire. It was built by Sir Walter Raleigh and is situated on a height overlooking a large piece of water with the ruins of an older castle on the farther bank. The castle was so full on our arrival that my old Scotch nurse and I were put into a large room, which I afterwards heard was said to be the haunted room. Nobody would sleep in it, and strange noises were heard at night to come from it. My nurse did not know this at the time, nor did my mother. My impression is that I was much pleased to find myself in this large room, for it was on the 3rd story, and the views from its windows over the beautiful terrace garden, which sloped down to the water and the ruined castle beyond, enchanted me. I slept in a little cot, which had been placed close to a large, old-fashioned bed of carved oak with red velvet curtains, where my nurse slept. In the middle of the night, I was awoke by a brilliant light that shone upon the wall. As I looked wonderingly at it, figures of men fighting seemed to pass over it, like the reflections produced by a magic lantern. Groups of figures passed to and fro, shouting as they advanced and retreated. The colours were very vivid. I saw red coats and black, and flashing of firearms, and heard horrible noises. I was very much frightened, and looked round to my nurse for help. She was sitting up in bed, and to my still greater horror, I saw she was not awake, but her eyes were fixed, though she seemed to be making signs to the figures, talking to them, and motioning them to go away, while they were yelling and quarrelling. I could neither cry out nor move. I was so frightened, but continued to look at the strange appearance. Suddenly it vanished, and all was dark and silent. A feeling of horror and dread, which I still feel when I happen to think of it, kept me awake until the day dawned through the window curtains, when I went to sleep. I never mentioned this horrible scene to my nurse, nor to anybody else, till many years afterwards, when I told her about it, and asked if she had any recollection of it. She answered that she had not. We often stayed at Sherborne Castle afterwards, but I never heard of anyone being put into that room to sleep. It was directly over the one my mother generally had, and one night she was roused by a violent knocking overhead. She described it as of dead bodies falling or being thrown about on the floor overhead. My father heard it too, and as there was a little turret staircase that wound up to the floor above out of their room, he determined to go and see what it could be. He lighted a candle and ascended the narrow, winding staircase. He found the door of this large and mysterious room open, but no one was in it. He had the courage, as I afterwards thought, to pass through the room and went out at the other door, which opened on the great staircase, and came down again to my mother. The strange noises had ceased, and they never heard them again. I often went into that haunted room when I was staying there afterwards. I used to stand near the large carved oak bedstead, just where my little cot had been, and try to account for the strange effect I remembered so well. The vision, or appearance, had been on the wall opposite the windows, and I tried to fancy that the moonlight could have shone in and produced some kind of pattern on the wall. But the paper on it was a kind of dull green with a very slight pattern, and I remembered that the dark red damask curtains of the windows had been drawn, so that had the moon been shining no light could have come in, except through some small crevices, and this could not have formed the large vision all along the breadth of the wall, nor the lurid light that awoke me out of my sleep.
These ghostly tales add another layer to Sherborne's rich tapestry of history. They remind us that beyond the tangible stones and documented events, there's a world of folklore and mystery that continues to captivate visitors and locals alike. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, these stories undeniably enhance the mystique of this ancient town, inviting us to imagine the echoes of centuries past that might still linger in Sherborne's shadowy corners and moonlit grounds. As you walk through Sherborne, especially as dusk falls, you might find yourself listening a little more closely, looking a little more carefully. For in this town where history is so palpable, who's to say where reality ends and legend begins? The ghosts of Sherborne, whether real or imagined, are as much a part of its story as the kings and bishops who once walked its streets. So next time you're in Dorset, take a detour to Sherborne. Walk its ancient streets, explore its magnificent abbey, and let yourself be transported through time in this remarkable town where history truly comes alive. Thank you for joining me on this discovery of the delightful Sherborne. If you enjoyed learning about the history, ghostly tales, and interesting accounts of the town, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos exploring our heritage and history. I love reading your comments as well, so let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover. Until next time, thanks for watching and farewell.